everyone, I'm Dr. Carolyn Willekes, and for this episode of The Tale Behind, we are at the Yamnuska Wolfdog Sanctuary in beautiful Cochrane, Alberta, and I would like to talk to you a little bit about the wolf this week. I think no animal elicits such an array of sort of extreme emotions than wolves. Some people admire them as symbols of freedom and nobility, but more frequently the wolf has traditionally brought fear into people, or sort of made people feel fear. We tend to have this sort of inexplicable terror of wolves. And the question is, where does it come from? Because when you stop and think about it, the wolf is the ancestor of all of our domestic dogs, and we welcome dogs into our homes, into our beds, we spoil them rotten. Yet on the other side, we sort of brand wolves as something dangerous, as a thief, a villain, something that comes in and steals from us and sort of threatens our existence and our livelihood. And this tradition dates back to the ancient world. It comes out of many different cultures and communities across Eurasia, where people started to raise livestock, sheep, goats, cattle, chicken, pigs. And we depended on these livestock, these domestic animals, to survive. And so the wolf, we perceived it as a threat, something that's going to come down from the hills, sneak onto our farms, and kill our animals at night, leaving us with nothing to eat. And this tradition becomes so entrenched, it's repeated in fables, in folklore, and it travels around the world with us. And it doesn't actually reflect anything about wolf behavior. There's actually they're just having a spat over some food behind me. There's actually a famous fable in Aesop that really highlights this, about the wolves and the harvesters. And these two wolves are watching a group of humans working out in the fields, and they're talking to each other because they're wolves and they can talk in stories. And they're like, what the heck's going on? Why do people hate us so much? What have we done to deserve this? We leave on our own, we don't bother with humans. They're like, oh, maybe it's just our PR, right? Maybe we need to help the humans. Maybe that's the problem. They love dogs. Dogs help humans. Maybe that's what we need to do. So these two wolves go down and they try and help the harvesters. And of course the harvesters just start throwing things at them and yelling at them. And the wolves are basically like, well, never mind then, right? We clearly can't change their mind. And although this is a fable, it really highlights what these animals, the response that these animals can create in us. We don't want to change our mind. Proper research into wolf behavior didn't begin until like the mid-1900s, like the 1950s, because we didn't want to not hate wolves. We didn't want to learn that there was anything endearing or welcoming or familiar about them. And so this dislike that we have of wolves, it doesn't just work on a small scale. It's actually affected the fate of these animals around the world. It's led to the removal, the extirpation of wolf populations in different parts of the Americas. I mean, the wolf went extinct in Japan because of ideas that were brought in there. And then this has massive ecological consequences. Whole ecosystems collapse when we remove wolves because we need them. They bring balance to an ecosystem. So why do we have this dislike of them? I mean, why do we love dogs so much and yet are so fearful of wolves when they're related to each other? And I think it comes down to being human. As humans, we like to think that we're in charge and that we control everything in the world, but we can't control wild animals. And so we brand them as something villainous and dangerous and unpredictable because they don't do what we ask. And that then has had some other interesting consequences, like the wolf dog. Because we love dogs, we're kind of afraid of wolves, but we also like the idea of being in charge of something wild. So what do? You cross the domestic with the wild, and you create this hybrid. And some wolf dogs can, with proper training and facilities and enrichment, do really well in domestic circumstances, and others can't. And so that's why we have sanctuaries like this to offer safe places for high content, mid content, low content wolf dogs that just haven't done well in a human environment, because humans take them on thinking, look, I've got this super exotic kind of wild animal, and we just don't know what to do with them. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the wolf isn't a villain. They're not out there to eat all of our sheep and our goats and our cattle. They're not out there to make our lives miserable, right? Just as with the donkey, our perception, our stereotypes of this species are a reflection of ourselves and our own entrenched social ideas and myths and hierarchies, but it's the animal who suffers. So don't look at the wolf as something that's going to come in and steal your soul in the middle of the night, or, kill all of your chickens in the backyard. They're just a wild animal that wants to be left alone and is an important part of the world we live in.